On the surface, Pikmin looks simple, a game about little plant creatures following your every command. But behind that simplicity lies one of Nintendo's most fascinating stories. One that started as a Mario tech demo nearly faded away, and finally returned with Pikmin 4. Today we're digging into the full history of Pikmin, from its first sprouts to what's next. Our story begins in 2000 at Nintendo Space World, a now defunct but once legendary expo hosted by Nintendo to showcase its upcoming hardware and software. Think something like E3. At this event, the tech world got its first real look at the Nintendo GameCube, Nintendo's successor to the Nintendo 64. One of the show's most intriguing presentations was a tech demo titled Super Mario 128. Designed to demonstrate the GameCube's processing power, the demo would show, 128 Marios independently running, jumping, and moving across a shifting disc-shaped platform. While it wasn't a playable game, the concept blew minds and went on to influence several Nintendo titles in surprising ways. For instance, the sphere-walking physics would later show up in Super Mario Galaxy. The advanced object management and animation systems influenced Metroid Prime. And perhaps most importantly, the concept of managing dozens of independent AI characters sparked a new idea in the mind of Shigeru Miyamoto, the man behind Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, and so many more, and let's be honest, if you're watching this video, you know who he is. Miyamoto saw potential beyond platformers and began imagining a new type of game where the player could control large groups of creatures, not individually, but as a coordinated unit. This vision would become the core of Pikmin. Originally, Pikmin was not about cute plant-like creatures at all. The prototype focused on two human-like characters named Adam and Eve. The player, acting as a kind of divine observer or god figure, would watch over them in a prehistoric world. You could influence their choices, make them fight or fall in love, help them create a family, and eventually use their offspring to defend themselves against enormous animals like mammoths and saber-toothed beasts. This is actually a really cool concept for a game, and while we haven't gotten something exactly like it, it's possible the game sport may have taken some inspiration from this, but that's all just speculation. Anyway, this would later evolve into the system of managing dozens of units, an idea that was turned into a game mechanic through throwing and directing them, but animating and controlling large numbers of human characters proved both difficult and thematically jarring. To simplify things and give them a more Nintendo feel, Adam and Eve's many children were abstracted into something less human, more nature-like, and a little bit alien. Thus, the Pikmin were born. Even after the designs were simplified and the Pikmin themselves began to take shape, the team at Nintendo EAD wasn't quite sure what the core of the game was. It was only after witnessing one particular gameplay moment that everything clicked into place. In Hino's words, who was a big part in the development of Pikmin, "I still can clearly recall the first time I saw multiple Pikmin working together to carry a big opponent. Until then, we had been struggling to find the direction that this game should have. But when these carry actions were completed, we were able to determine the future of Pikmin." That moment, tiny creatures working as one to haul a much larger beast across the landscape captured the magic they were looking for: cooperation, strategy, and discovery. Pikmin wasn't just an RTS, it was a game about connection. Pikmin made its public debut at E3 2001 with a trailer that showed off its alien yet charming world. Audiences were curious but confused. Nintendo had never released an RTS before, and many people weren't quite sure what genre Pikmin would even fit into. Fortunately, Nintendo held a live demo at the event to showcase the basics. Captain Olimar, the playable character from the planet Hokotate, had crash-landed on an uncharted planet. He had just 30 days to find the 30 missing pieces of his broken ship before his life support system failed, and to survive, he had to enlist the help of the strange, plant-like inhabitants of this world, the Pikmin. The demo helped establish the game's identity, part strategy, part puzzle, part adventure, and build hype for its release. Pikmin launched on October 26, 2001 in Japan, followed by a North American release on December 2nd, and a European release on June 14, 2002. The gameplay was simple to grasp, but difficult to master. Players had to manage their time, resources, and Pikmin efficiently over the 30-day period, with each day lasting roughly 13 real-time minutes. And in this game, we saw the three original Pikmin types. The red Pikmin, which were fire-resistant and strong in combat, yellow Pikmin, who could carry bomb rocks and be thrown higher, as well as conduct electricity, and the blue Pikmin, the only type that could survive in water, necessary for traversing aquatic areas and rescuing drowning allies. Each type of Pikmin emerged from its own onion, a sort of organic spaceship that also served as a Pikmin nest. By defeating enemies and bringing back resources like colored palettes or monster carcasses, players could grow their Pikmin army. However, danger was everywhere. Nightfall brought predators like the infamous Bulborbs, and any Pikmin left behind at sundown would be mercilessly eaten, their screams haunting the player as Olimar's ship lifted off without them. It was a mechanic that encouraged emotional attachment to these creatures instead of having them as a bunch of objects to bring along with you. You wanted to protect the Pikmin like they were your own. The world felt really unique as it felt like a mini version of an Earth-like planet, this one being called PNF 404. The game featured 3 endings, depending on how many ship parts the player managed to collect. The best ending had all 30 parts recovered and Olimar escaped safely. The normal ending, which is at least 25 parts where Olimar escapes but his ship is visibly incomplete. And the bad ending. Fewer than 25, Olimar's life support fails and he presumably dies, only for a Pikmin flower to sprout from the ground in his place, a haunting and poetic end. Once players unlocked all 3 Pikmin types, they could access Challenge Mode, which encouraged players to grow as many Pikmin as possible in a single day. Critics largely praised Pikmin for its originality and visual polish. IGN called it one of the most unique and refreshing titles of the GameCube's launch lineup. Positive points included stunning visuals for the time, inventive game mechanics, a memorable atmosphere unlike anything else on the market. However, some criticisms were raised about the occasional finicky camera system, the relatively short length of the main story, and the strict 30-day limit, which some felt was too punishing for a first-time player. Commercially, Pikmin started strong, selling over 100,000 units in its first week in Japan. However, sales began to get lower and taper off until it seemed like the game had faded, but then something unexpected happened. To help market the game in Japan, Nintendo partnered with the quirky musical duo called Strawberry Flower, who composed a melancholic song titled I No Uda. The song was from the perspective of the Pikmin themselves, how they followed their leader faithfully, even as many of them died in the process. The lyrics were surprisingly emotional, reflecting themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and mortality. When the single was released on December 6, 2001, it became a surprise hit, eventually outselling the game itself. Pikmin's weekly sales jumped from 10,000 to 53,000, and then to over 100,000 in early January. The song went on to become a pop culture sensation in Japan, even being used in school music classes. Thanks in part to I No Uda, Pikmin's momentum returned, and the game ultimately sold over 1.19 million copies worldwide, earning its place as a successful, if niche, new Nintendo IP. With the critical success of the original Pikmin and its cult following growing steadily thanks to I No Uda and word of mouth, a sequel was inevitable. Fans were eager to return to the mysterious world of the Pikmin, and Nintendo, seeing potential in the franchise, got to work on follow-up. Development of Pikmin 2 began soon after the first game's release. While Pikmin had been applauded for its creativity, many players found its 30-day time limit stressful. It added urgency, but sometimes punished exploration. So for the sequel, the developers took a bold step, and they removed the time limit entirely. This decision would set the tone for a much larger, more methodical, and less restrictive experience. In December 2002, Pikmin 2 was first publicly acknowledged, oddly enough in an interview with Japan's weekly Playboy magazine. In the interview, Shigeru Miyamoto revealed that both Pikmin 2 and the infamous Super Mario 128 were in development, confirming that Olimar and the Pikmin weren't going anywhere. Interestingly, Miyamoto would later clarify in a 2007 interview, "The one question I'm always asked is, what happened to Mario 128? Most of you already played it, in a game called Pikmin." The Mario 128 tech demo didn't become a game, it became an idea, and Pikmin was one of its most brilliant applications. Development of Pikmin 2 took around 2.5 years, with the original team returning, including Hino. The game was originally slated for release in fall 2003, but was delayed by about 6 months to allow for polishing and refinement. This time around, the team wanted to address the criticisms of the first game, like the length, time pressure, and limited replayability, and add depth without sacrificing approachability. They also wanted to explore co-op features, though these would end up in a separate multiplayer mode. Instead of ship parts, the player would now be tasked with collecting treasure and over 200 unique items scattered across the landscape, including real-world objects like batteries, soda caps, marbles, and more. Many of these treasures are nods to classic Japanese household products, and it makes the Pikmin's alien world seem more like ours. To them, a Duracell battery is an ancient relic, a 7-Up bottle cap is a priceless artifact, even a jar of Skippy peanut butter becomes a prize trophy. The product placement in this game is honestly something that deserves a whole video to talk about. Pikmin 2 begins with Olimar returning home to his company Hocotate Freight, only to discover it is deeply in debt. Even worse, a new employee named Louis has lost a shipment of golden pig carrots to what he claims was a space bunny. Olimar learns that the bottle caps he brought back from his last trip to the Pikmin planet is actually incredibly valuable, so the president of the company sends both Olimar and Louis back to the planet to collect treasure and repay the company's massive debt. This time, the stakes are corporate, but the adventure is even bigger. The removal of the 30-day timer gave players the freedom to explore and strategize at their own pace. That freedom encouraged deeper planning, better Pikmin management, and more experimentation, all key to solving Pikmin 2's increasingly complex puzzles and dungeons. There were new Pikmin types as well, the purple Pikmin, who were heavier, stronger, and capable of carrying 10 times the weight of a regular Pikmin. When thrown, they slammed into the ground with a shockwave that could stun enemies. White Pikmin, who were smaller, faster, and immune to poison. They could also detect buried treasure and poison any enemy that eats them, often killing the enemy in return. And the Bulbmin, a unique parasitic Pikmin species that temporarily joins your squad in caves, immune to all hazards but cannot leave the caves with you. Bulbmin are more of a gameplay quirk than a proper Pikmin type, but they're a fan favorite nonetheless. Interestingly, purple and white Pikmin don't have their own onions. They can only be grown by tossing other Pikmin into rare candy pop buds in caves, and then there's also sprays. There's the Ultra Spicy spray, which boosts Pikmin attack power and speed temporarily, and the Ultra Bitter spray, which petrifies enemies, making them vulnerable to attacks or safe to ignore. Sprays added a real-time layer of strategy, allowing players to shift the tide of a battle with clever timing. One of Pikmin 2's most ambitious changes was the addition of subterranean dungeons filled with enemies, hazards, and treasures. These multi-floor caverns often disallowed leaving until completed, and sometimes restricted the use of certain Pikmin types. They would also feature boss battles at the end. Each cave is a test of endurance and resource management, and the absence of a day-night cycle inside them also meant players could take their time, but if they lost too many Pikmin or got caught off guard, retreating was often the only option. The team originally wanted to introduce cooperative play to the main campaign, but found it interfered too much with the design philosophy and pacing, so in turn they created a separate multiplayer battle mode. In this 2-player split-screen mode, each player commands a squad of red or blue Pikmin and competes in capture the flag style objectives such as capturing the opponent's marble, gathering 4 yellow marbles, defeating the enemy leader, or causing a total Pikmin extinction. With 10 different battle maps, this mode added significant replay value and became a favorite among competitive fans, even if it was somewhat hidden from the spotlight. When Pikmin 2 launched in April 2004 in Japan, followed by August in North America and October in Europe, it was met with near universal praise. Critics applauded the game's increased depth, the removal of the time limit, the clever addition of new Pikmin in underground caves, and the use of real-world treasure for storytelling and satire, or just blatant product placement. Many viewed it as an improvement in nearly every way, a fuller, more refined version of the original concept. However, not everything was perfect. Some reviewers noted minor bugs or pathfinding hiccups, like Pikmin getting stuck, breaking from the group, cave difficulty spikes, a few camera control issues, but still, these didn't hold the game back. Sales-wise, Pikmin 2 sold over 1.12 million copies, nearly matching the original, an impressive feat for a Nintendo franchise that wasn't one of Nintendo's big guns. With back-to-back hits, it seemed like Pikmin was destined to be a regular Nintendo staple. Fans assumed the Wii, with its pointer-based controls and motion controls, would be a perfect home for the next Pikmin game. Instead, they got new play control Pikmin, an enhanced port of the original game for the Wii, released in December 2008 in Japan, and February 2009 in the West. This version added Wii Remote plus nunchuck controls, improved camera and cursor functionality, enabled day-by-day saving, which was a huge quality of life improvement, and featured widescreen support and minor graphical polish. Wii owners can now play Pikmin in a more modern way, even if they could already play the original via GameCube backwards compatibility. Regardless, the improvements made it the definitive version for many. Pikmin 2 also received the new play control treatment, releasing in Japan and Europe in 2009, but not in North America until 2012, where it was part of the Nintendo Select's budget line. While there was still no new news of a true Pikmin 3, fans got a huge morale boost when Olimar was announced as a playable character in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Revealed on January 9th, 2008 through the Super Smash Bros. Dojo, Olimar's inclusion was a big moment for the series. Not only did it expose Pikmin to a broader audience, but it also solidified its place among Nintendo's most iconic franchises. Olimar's moveset cleverly incorporated the mechanics of the Pikmin games. He would pluck different Pikmin types and use them for attacks. Each color retained unique properties, just like in the main games, and you would manage Pikmin order and availability, which became part of the strategy. And of course, Pikmin would appear in Super Smash Bros. Again, both in Smash for 3DS and Wii U and Ultimate. New costumes, stages, and music tracks drawn from the series' history. For fans, Olimar's Smash debut was a sign that Pikmin was highly regarded by Nintendo. Even if there wasn't a new game yet, Pikmin was still alive. With the release of Pikmin 2 in 2004 and the warm reception of the new Play Control editions, fans naturally assumed Pikmin 3 was just around the corner. The Nintendo Wii seemed like an obvious home for the next century, especially with its pointer-based controls, which perfectly suited the gameplay style like I mentioned for the new Play Control versions. And yet, the years passed. 1, then 2, then 5, still no new Pikmin game. During this silent era, Pikmin slowly transitioned from a rising star to a cult franchise, loved by many, remembered by most, but seemingly frozen in time. While Nintendo didn't forget about Pikmin, they certainly weren't in a rush to return to it. At E3 2007, Miyamoto was asked about the future of the series and responded with cautious optimism. I certainly don't think we've seen the last of Pikmin, I definitely would like to do something with them, and I think the Wii interface in particular is very well suited to that franchise. This sparked renewed hope among fans, but no formal announcements followed. A 2008 article from CNET suggested that while Miyamoto was still passionate about the series, he was focused on other Wii projects including Wii Music, Wii Fit, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Then finally, at E3 2008, we got our first real confirmation. Pikmin 3 was in development. Miyamoto announced it during a roundtable event with press, stating that he and his team had resumed work on the game, but no further details were shared. Funnily enough, this wouldn't be the last time Miyamoto would confirm the existence of a new Pikmin game and then wait years to show anything about it. What followed was an unusually long period of silence and behind-the-scenes reshuffling. Pikmin 3 was initially being developed for the Wii, with its controls being built around the Wii Remote's pointer and the nunchuck's analog stick. However, by the time the game was ready to be shown off, Nintendo had shifted focus to their upcoming console, the Wii U. At E3 2011, Miyamoto revealed that development on Pikmin 3 had officially moved to the Wii U. He explained that the console's HD capabilities and gamepad offered new possibilities that simply weren't available on the Wii. Fans would have to wait until E3 2012 to finally see Pikmin 3 in action, nearly a decade after Pikmin 2. The debut trailer introduced beautiful HD visuals, a new protagonist and interface, and Rock Pikmin, a new type with powerful collision-based attacks. More information came in December 2012 through a Nintendo Direct, which revealed Mission Mode, which was a time-based challenge mode for solo or co-op play, Bingo Battle, a multiplayer versus mode, and the return of Purple and White Pikmin, but only in side modes, not the main campaign. Interestingly, Nintendo had also been working on Pikmin animated shorts intended to premiere before the game's release. However, these were delayed and wouldn't arrive until 2014 on the 3DS. However, this was long after the game had hit shelves. After years of delays and shifting platforms, Pikmin 3 was finally released. July 13th, 2013 in Japan, July 26th in Europe, and August 4th in North America. While previous games focused on Captain Olimar, this entry introduced 3 new protagonists: Alf, Brittany, and Charlie. Astronauts from the planet Kopai, this arguably may have been the second most popular game from 2013 to have 3 distinct protagonists who you could switch to. Their mission was to find food sources to save their starving home world. They crash land on PNF 404 and must reunite after being separated, harvest local fruit for juice, which was their food supply, and escape the planet before it's too late. Unlike the first game's rigid 30-day countdown, Pikmin 3 used juice rations as a soft time limit. Players had to collect fruit to refill their supply, but efficient players could explore almost indefinitely. And as for the new Pikmin, as I already mentioned, the Rock Pikmin, which were introduced in the main campaign, they could break glass and crystals that were previously indestructible. They're immune to crushing attacks, but they are slower and heavier but powerful when thrown. The Wing Pikmin, who, as you could guess, could fly, avoiding obstacles and water hazards. They often ignored terrain, making them ideal for transporting items quickly, but they were weaker in combat, but highly useful for logistical tasks. The gamepad served as a tactical map, letting players view terrain in real time, switch between 3 captains, draw paths for captains to follow automatically. This allowed for more complex multitasking, which was, and still is, a core appeal of the series, and it enabled new strategies like dividing tasks between captains across the map. Pikmin 3 featured several modes beyond the story. There was the mission mode, complete tasks like defeating enemies, gathering treasure, or fighting bosses within a time limit. These could be played solo or cooperatively. Then there was Bingo Battle, where 2 players raced to complete a bingo card of collectible items. This mode was a highlight for multiplayer fans, combining strategy with chaos. This was personally one of my favorite modes. However, despite the depth of its side content, many fans felt the main campaign was too short, especially when compared to Pikmin 2's treasure hunt and dozens of caves. Critically, Pikmin 3 was praised for its gorgeous HD visuals, great level design, the refined controls, particularly with the Wii Remote and Nunchuk, which were still supported, and new Pikmin types and mission-based variety. Most outlets gave it a score between 8 and 9 out of 10, citing its polish, creativity, and charm. However, sales were a mixed bag. While the game performed decently, the Wii U's overall struggles meant that Pikmin 3 never reached the heights Nintendo had hoped. By the end of 2013, it had sold around 210,000 units in North America, and fewer than 500,000 copies worldwide in its first year. Despite being one of the system's better reviewed exclusives, it remained a hidden gem for many years. The animated shorts, first teased in 2012, finally launched in late 2014 through the Wii U and 3DS eShops. Directed by Miyamoto himself, the shorts included The Night Juicer, Treasures in a Bottle, and Occupational Hazards. While brief, these animations captured the Pikmin universe's charm and whimsy beautifully, with incredible attention to detail. In a Q&A, Miyamoto said, "These shorts were also meant to help us explore what Pikmin could become outside of games." He confirmed he had more ideas, and hinted again that a new Pikmin game was in the works. After years of speculation about Pikmin 4, fans were caught off guard when Nintendo announced Hey Pikmin, a 2.5D platformer for the Nintendo 3DS, not developed by Nintendo EAD, but by Arzest, a studio known for Yoshi's New Island and Street Pass Me Plaza games. The game launched on July 28, 2017, and featured Olimar crash landing on another mysterious planet, side-scrolling puzzle platforming rather than top-down RTS gameplay, touchscreen controls to aim and throw Pikmin, a new resource called Sparklium, which was used to refuel Olimar's ship, and Pikmin followed the player from level to level and could be sent to Pikmin Park, where they'd gather resources over time. But it was not what fans were hoping for. Hey Pikmin received mixed reviews. While its art style and relaxing tone were praised, many critics and players felt the gameplay was overly simple, the levels were repetitive, and it lacked the strategic depth and emotion of the mainline games. Fans were really upset when this was announced, and at first thought this may have been Pikmin 4, leading to many fans just feeling like all hope was lost in the series. This was around the time where some prominent Nintendo series had dumbed down poorly received games like Paper Mario Color Splash, Star Fox Zero, Chibi Robo Ziplash, and Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. Some of these series still haven't recovered. Chibi Robo specifically went from being a quirky, relaxing game where you played as a mini robot completing household chores to a side-scrolling platformer. Sound familiar? Chibi Robo Ziplash sold horribly and all but killed the franchise, so Pikmin fans definitely had a reason to be concerned. More damningly though, Shigefumi Hino, the series' original director, had no involvement. This did reinforce the belief that Hey Pikmin was a spin-off, not the long-promised Pikmin 4. And indeed, Miyamoto later confirmed that this was not the mainline sequel he had mentioned years prior. In fact, in a 2017 interview with Eurogamer, Miyamoto stated, "It's actually very close to completion," when talking about Pikmin 4. And remember, he also said this in 2015. Fans began to joke that Miyamoto's idea of close to completion was on a geological timescale. While we weren't getting any news about Pikmin 4, we did get news about Pikmin 3 coming to Switch. Released on October 30th, 2020, Pikmin 3 Deluxe was more than just a port. It was a refined, expanded, and fully modernized edition of the original game, and for many players who skipped the Wii U, it was their first introduction to the franchise. Enhancements included full 2-player co-op and story mode, new prologue and epilogue missions starring Olimar and Louie, a reworked lock-on targeting system, 3 difficulty modes allowing a more accessible experience for newcomers, the return of the Piccolopedia allowing players to read commentary from each captain about enemies and creatures, and all previously released DLC mission packs included. The move to Switch paid off because Pikmin 3 Deluxe outsold the original Wii U version within just a few months, eventually moving over 2.4 million units, making it the best-selling game in the series to date at the time. Critically, it was once again received warmly. The added content and polish helped push it closer to the modern standard of Nintendo's evergreen titles, and the fact that it was portable on the Switch only added to its appeal. Before this, the only portable Pikmin game was Hey Pikmin, which I think most people wouldn't want to play at home or on the go, so it was big for a lot of people to get into the series. While Deluxe wasn't Pikmin 4, it was clear that the interest in the franchise had reignited. For years, Pikmin 4 had existed in a sort of quantum state, both in development and yet unseen, like Schrodinger's Pikmin if you will. Fans began to wonder if it had been scrapped, restarted, or perhaps transformed into something else. Then, during the Nintendo Direct on September 13th, 2022, Shigeru Miyamoto appeared with a brief, but monumental announcement. "We've been working on this game for a long time. Finally, Pikmin 4 is happening." The trailer showed very little, just a serene garden environment, a glimpse of a resting Bulborb, and the game's logo. But for fans, it was everything. The project was real, and the wait was over. On February 8th, 2023, during another Nintendo Direct, fans got their first real look at Pikmin 4. Gameplay was shown for the first time, introducing major changes to the formula, new Pikmin types, and an unexpected ally. The release date was set, July 21st, 2023. Let's break down what made Pikmin 4 such a substantial evolution in the series. Rather than playing as Olimar or the Koppai trio, players now create their own custom character, a new Rescue Corps recruit tasked with saving stranded crewmates, including Olimar himself. Visually, the game adopts a much lower camera angle, much closer to the ground than in previous games. This perspective makes the world feel larger, more immersive, and more naturalistic, emphasizing the player's tiny size in a vast, overgrown environment. The biggest addition to the game is Ochi, a loyal dog-like creature who serves as your companion through the adventure. Ochi quickly became a fan favorite, and for good reason, just look at him. Anyway, Ochi can swim across water, carrying both you and your Pikmin. smash obstacles such as walls and barricades, sniff out objectives and hidden items, and be trained to unlock new skills by rescuing castaways. He can also carry entire squads of Pikmin on his back, reducing the need to micromanage their movement across hazards. Ochi essentially acted as a second captain, but with expanded mobility and utility, fundamentally changes how players approach problem solving in the world. There was also a couple of new Pikmin types introduced. The Ice Pikmin, who could freeze enemies and bodies of water, create walkable paths across lakes and rivers by freezing surfaces. They're one of the most mechanically transformative Pikmins in the entire series. And there's the Glow Pikmin, who only appear during night expeditions. They glow brightly, can float, and have unique defensive attacks. They're used to protect special plants called luminals from swarms of nocturnal enemies. For the first time in franchise history, players can now explore the world at night. Previously, nightfall was a hard deadline. Any Pikmin left behind would be eaten by predators, but in Pikmin 4, players can initiate special night expeditions where they must defend key structures from waves of increasingly aggressive enemies. These missions are part tower defense, part survival mode, and introduced a welcome new layer of challenge to the series. Another new mode introduced was the Dandori battles, which test your efficiency and multitasking skills under pressure. In these matches, players must gather more items than their opponent before the timer runs out. These battles appear against AI opponents during the campaign, and in multiplayer where 2 players can beat head-to-head. Dandori, a Japanese concept referring to the art of planning and organization, is a core theme of the game, emphasizing thoughtful execution over pure reflexes. Caves make a triumphant return in Pikmin 4, though with more variety and less punishing repetition than Pikmin 2. These underground zones feature unique enemies, environmental hazards, mini-bosses, and boss rush style missions with multiple stages. Some even feature special rules like only allowing certain Pikmin, disabling Ochi, or locking the player in until objectives are met. These areas not only provide gameplay variety, but also house some of the series' most bizarre and imaginative level design. As you explore, you'll rescue castaways and stranded explorers who expand your capabilities. They can unlock upgrades for your gear and enhance Ochi's abilities, as well as opening up new areas or side quests. These characters are quirky and diverse, adding humor and humanity to the story. They also help serve the narrative, tying the game's exploration mechanics to tangible progression. Pikmin 4 features some of the best visuals on the Switch. Lush foliage, nice lighting, and beautifully styled textures create a beautiful game. The world feels alive, creatures roam freely, the ambient soundtrack shifts as you explore, and your Pikmin react emotionally to danger, success, and loss. Even the death animations, long-time emotional gut punches for Pikmin veterans, are more detailed and impactful than ever. Pikmin 4 launched to widespread acclaim, with critics praising its vast improvements in quality of life, the new gameplay systems, especially Ochi, and the variety in level and mission design, and the emotional weight of its storytelling. Many declared it the best entry in the series, not only for its innovations, but for how it respects the legacy of what came before. It quickly became the best-selling Pikmin title ever, crossing 2.5 million units sold within months. Reviews averaged in the high 80s, and many fans who were introduced to the series via Pikmin 3 Deluxe saw it as the true realization of the franchise's potential. In the June 21st, 2023 Nintendo Direct, Nintendo also dropped a bombshell. Pikmin 1 and 2 were coming to Nintendo Switch, available immediately as digital downloads, later released physically as a double pack, which for someone like me who prefers physical copies of games was huge. These remasters featured widescreen support, updated visuals with HD textures and smoother frame rates, enhanced control schemes, and slight quality of life improvements as the original games were 20 years old or more. This meant that all 4 Pikmin games were all playable on one system, making the Switch the ultimate console for Pikmin fans. It was a moment of celebration for a franchise that had taken 22 years to bloom into its fullest form. Well, that is unless you want to count Hey Pikmin. It's hard to believe that the Pikmin series began as an experimental tech demo for the GameCube. What started as a curious idea, a simulation type game with Adam and Eve battling mammoths, transformed into one of Nintendo's most unique and imaginative franchises. Through emotional storytelling, innovative gameplay, and unforgettable charm, the Pikmin had earned its place among Nintendo's greats. Not by being the loudest or most popular, but by staying true to its roots. And with Pikmin 4 proving there's still so much potential left to explore, one thing is certain. The garden has never looked so green, and I look forward to seeing where the series goes with the Switch 2 being out. And that's the video. If you enjoyed this documentary going over the history of Pikmin, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this, as it really helps me out. This video took a long time to write, voice, and edit, so it would be really appreciated. Also consider joining my Discord and becoming a channel member for just a couple bucks a month. My name is Domain, and thank you for watching the History of Pikmin documentary by Game Domain. My name is Domaini, and thank you for watching the History of Pikmin documentary.